Hi, in this video I'm going to show you how to create a ZFS formatted drive with GPT labels and then transfer data across using ZFS send and receive. So first of all, what I'm going to do is create a mount point where we're going to mount our drive. Then I'm going to erase the drive, format it and transfer some data. So what I'm going to do is switch to the mount directory. And you can see here we've got some directories that I've created, and what I'm going to do is create a new directory which we're then going to set as the mount point for the ZFS drive. So doas make directory, and I'll call this one media. And it usually helps if you can type your password. Okay, so we've now got our mount point set up. So what I'm going to do is now switch to root, doas su, because we're going to be running all these commands as root, and if you're using doas it doesn't have persistence, so you have to keep typing your password in. So the first step is I'm going to plug in the drive and then run dmessage. Okay, wait for the little blue light on the drive to show up. Okay, and we can see down here, this section down here, that the drive is DA0. So if we do a geom disk list, this is our internal drive and this is the drive we've just plugged in. So what we need to do is follow the instructions written down on the left here, and first of all we're going to destroy the drive of gpart. So this is obviously where you need to make sure you're destroying the actual right drive. So gpart destroy fda0, and there we go. And what we're going to now do is dd some data across to zero out the drive. And you may be tempted to kind of copy and paste stuff, but you really need to type the commands out by hand so you actually remember them. So dd if equals dev 0 off equals dev da0 bs equals 1m count equals 128. Okay, and that's zeroed that out. So what we're going to now do is create a GPT label and add the ZFS file system. So gpart create sgpt da0. Okay, so that's this section across here, gpart create sgpt da0. Double check that's okay. Yep. And now what we're going to do is format it, and we're going to give it a label. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this, I'll call it Z media or something. So gpart add -t free bsd -zfs label, and we'll call this Z media da0. So just double check that, gpart add -t zfs -z FreeBSD -zfs -l, the name of the GPT label, and then the drive. Okay, so we've done that, and now what we're going to do is actually create the zpool. So what we're going to do is name the zpool the same as the GPT label. So zpool create Z media, GPT, Z media. Okay, Z pool create Z media, GPT Z media. That looks good. Okay, then we're going to set the mount point to the mount point we created before, and basically what this will do is when we import the drive, it will be mounted to this directory. So ZFS set mount point equals mount media, and then the actual pool name here, which is the same as the GPT label. So ZFS set mount point equals mount media Z media. Let's double check that. Okay. Okay, so we've done that. Now what we can do is we may need to actually change the permissions. I think it should be okay. Mount. Okay, that's all. That'll be okay. So now what we're going to do is export the drive, and then what I'll do is try and send some data across to it, and then re-import the drive and have it mounted to the directory that we want. So what I'm going to actually do is create some data sets inside the Z media pool we've just created. So if I can remember how you do this, let me switch back to some notes. So basically what we've got is if I do I think it's a ZFS list. You can see here we've got Z media. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create some data sets in there. I'll create a files git data set, and then try and send over a data set I've got to the external drive. So what we're going to do is we've got this Z media. What we're going to do is ZFS create Z media files, Z media files git. Okay, if we do a ZFS list again, so we've now got this set up, and you can see the mount point is already set. So what we've got the mount point here is mount media. When I created the ZFS files data set, it comes up as Z media files and then media files git. Files git. Okay, so now the next step we're going to do is we're going to, I think what we need to do is we actually need to from memory, I think you have to export the drive before you send the data across. Let me just double check that. So we've got it imported. Do we need to import the drive before we send it across? Let's try sending it across and see what happens, and if I mess things up. So what I want to do is I'll open a new terminal to make this easier. This git directory here is you can see it contains a lot of directories inside it, and basically what this is, if you have a look down here, z root data git mounted to my git folder in my home, that's actually a data set. So the mount directories is just, the git folder is just a mount directory for the ZFS data set. So what I'm going to try and do is send the data set across And what I need to do is ZFS list dash T. Oh, that's a bit weird. Okay, ZFS list T snapshot, and we'll find the name of the latest snapshot and then send it across. So music. So that was the last data set I created. So what I'm going to do is send the, if I can scroll up here, to the data. Okay, you can see here I've got the last data set I created was when I added my music and I created a ZFS data set. And what I want to do is send this zroot data git at music dataset across from my home directory to the external drive. The way we do that is by running this command here. That's an example of the command we're going to be running. So we'll do ZFS send R for recursive, V for verbose, and what we need to do now is send the name of the dataset across, which would be zroot data git at music, and then we're going to send that across ZFS receive F, and the this is the point where you need to make sure that you're sending across to the right data set. So let's just open terminal again and ZFS list, and we want to send that across to the zmedia files git data set. So let me just close that again. So that's zmedia files git. I want to send that across to. Okay, so here we go. If I'm on the, where's my flipping cursor? Okay, do that again. ZFS send capital R V zroot data files git at music, and then we're going to do a ZFS receive F to zmedia files git, and now we're going to press return and see if that works. Okay, zroot data files git. So obviously I've made a mistake there. So zroot data, because it's not data file, it's zroot data git, my bad. So let me just come back across. Zroot data git at music, that's correct, and then ZFS receive F zmedia was it files git, wasn't it? Files git. So let me just double check this again. ZFS list, and that was zmedia files git. Yep. So ZFS send -rv zroot data git at music to pipe it into ZFS receive zmedia files git. Okay, and we can see that's now being sent across. And the advantage of this is if you keep all your, you can set your home directory up so that all the directories are actually just mount points for ZFS datasets, And the advantage of doing that is you then have data sets for all your different directories, and then you can use ZFS to send them across to another machine. So if I want to set up another machine, rather than using something like rsync to copy the files across, I can use the ZFS send and receive. Okay, now it may be that that didn't work because I had it mounted. You can see here, files, something's, I should have had that unmounted. So let me just double check that. I thought that was the case. See, there's nothing there. So if I do a zpool export z media, and then a zpool import z media, and check that mount media file. See, it didn't transfer across, so I was right in that you had to have it unmounted. So let's try that again. Zpool export z media. Let's try running the command again. Broken pipe. So obviously I've messed things up here. Let's have a look. Okay, let me try zpool import z media. Let's mount USB. So what have I done wrong? So obviously something's gone wrong there. Let me see. ZFS list. So we've got the so why is it mounted to my Git directory? That is not good. So have I just clobbered all my Git folders by doing something really stupid? Perhaps. Let me just check that. No, that's still all there. So I'm not quite sure what I've done wrong here. So let me double check all of this. Did I need to set the mount points recursively? I'm not sure why it's got the mount point set here. I think that's because when I sent the data set across, that had a mount point already set. So the issue is that when I sent the data set across, it already had a mount point set. So what I guess I need to do is actually reset this mount point here to mount media files git. Okay, so what I'm going to do is change the mount point for this data set to mount media files git. So ZFS, do I need to have this? I guess I have to have this export this z media. Okay, and what I'm going to do is ZFS set mount point, and basically what we're doing here is we're first of all setting the directory for the mount point and then the data set here. So ZFS set mount point equals mount media files git. Okay, and then we're going to want to set that for z media was it files git, z media files git, and see if that works. See if it's okay. So I do need to have that. I need to have that imported first of all. So ZFS let me try that. Or maybe the mount point doesn't actually exist. So maybe what I'm going to do is recreate the. I've already got the data set, but the mount points cannot open. Okay, right. So we're going to import that and try running that again. Okay. Mount media files. Git. Yeah, and it did transfer across. So you can see I did have a few issues remembering the actual commands, but basically the issue was that the mount point, the dataset that I already created in my home directory, this git here, when I created the dataset, I'd set a mount point to my home directory, and what I needed to do was actually set the mount point to the new location that we'd created. So again, we'd created the mount media files git. You can see all that's in there, and basically what we did was, if I come back to the previous notes here, is after basically adding the GPT label, we set a we created the Z pool, and we set the mount point for the Z pool that we'd created, and then we created additional data sets inside the Z pool, which would then, if I list here, you can see when I created the files dataset, it was automatically created the directory and the mount point here. And again, when I created the Git dataset, it created the directory there. But the issue was when I sent across the dataset, which already had a mount point set, it was retaining that information. It was retaining the mount point information from the sending dataset onto the receiving dataset. So what I had to do was come back across and git servers FreeBSD home datasets. I had to set the mount point. I had to change the mount point of the new received data to the correct location, because it was still retaining the mount point information from the sending ZFS dataset. So that's that was the issue that I was having. And you do have the data set imported when you do the send and receive. For some reason, I don't know why I was thinking you didn't, but you do. And that's basically the steps that we do to format a drive as ZFS, add GPT labels, and then send the data across. Basically what I can now do is I can send all my data across. So all of these are actually just empty directories. These are all just empty directories. They're all mount points for ZFS data sets. And as I said, the advantage of this is you can see here, all these here are data sets, and basically what that means is I can then send any of these data sets across in the manner I've just shown you to either an external drive or to a new machine, and then just mount them, and all the data will appear. So it's a really good way of separating your data into separate data sets, which you can then basically send across to another machine to set it up, or to send to an external drive as a backup. So what I can then do with this is I can do incremental snapshots once I've got this set up. You can do incremental snapshots. So let me see if I've got get some weird behavior in the terminal there. So let me see if I've got that written down somewhere. Yeah, external drive. Okay. So this is how I basically back up my system using incremental ZFS datasets. I create the drive the same way I did before. I set the mount point, and when you're sending incremental snapshots, the way that you do it is, if I come across here, ZFS list T snapshot, you can see these are all the snapshots, and you can see these are the last two snapshots, recv and music. So if I want to send, for instance, when I want to send my whole Z route across, I would do a ZFS send -rv -r -i, sorry, capital I, Z route, and then basically this is the these are the names of the last two data sets. So this would be urxvt and music, and then we would send this across to the mounted drive, which in this case would be called Z backup. So we'd have the Z backup drive imported, and we'd then import the Z route from one machine. We'd send the Z route from one machine, the incremental differences between these two snapshots, pipe it in, and then send it to the mounted Z pool here at Z route. And then once you've done that, the way you unmount drives is ZFS unmount, ZFS export and ZFS import. So if I want to export that drive, you can see here, mount media, you can see that's there. I could do a Z pool export Z media. And it's gone. If you do a Z pool import, it will tell you the name of the drive that can be imported and its status. So you can see here, Z pool import Z media. Ls mount media files git, and we have the data set there mounted. So that's basically how you can format a drive with ZFS, set up GPT labels, and then send data sets across from one machine to the external drive. And it's a really good way to back up your data and manage your data. Just means I can send across these data sets. You know, I can format another drive, plug it in, do the same thing, just send the data sets across, or as I said, set up a new machine, and then basically send the data sets across, set the mount points, mount them, everything comes up. So that's how I set up a new machine. I would create all the mount points in my home directory, send the data across, set them to mount there, boom, all done. So that's how you can format a drive with ZFS, set GPT labels, and send data across to the new formatted drive.